game. How you doing, guys? I am really excited because we just listened to a song that I absolutely love. Let me go back to it. What's the name of it actually? Finding Beauty by Craig Armstrong. Is that what just played? I guess that's what just played. Finding Beauty by Craig Armstrong. It was timed exactly with my timer. My little timer over there to the side that was saying, hey, FletchDota's incoming. And the song ended exactly as the timer ended. I love that song. I love listening to it. And I thought I was going to have to turn it off to start the show. But that is not the case. It was meant to be. And what a great way to start off the show. Now, something interesting for me tonight. I do, of course, have partially new lighting in place. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully it doesn't crash down on me. If you hear an explosion and suddenly the screen goes dark, you know what happened. I've not installed my LED lighting. I have the prototype actually right beside me. And I don't know if y'all can hear the clanging of metal as I pull these parts separate from each other. But let me get the cord just a little bit longer so you guys can see it. But of course I have the prototype installed right here. It's not cooling quite fast enough, so I'm about to change designs up a little bit and see if I can get it cooling better. Or I might just try, replacing some of the parts to something that can handle the heat a little better and see if the LED burns out after some test runs. So we'll see how that goes. Still working on the LED lighting, and I honestly haven't had a lot of time to fiddle with it. I've worked on it maybe 2 hours this week because I have been really busy going into July 4th weekend. Of course, for those of you who aren't American, July 4th is when we celebrate our Independence Day, which is pretty important. As an American, being a free country, our independence is kind of where we started. It's basically the birth of our nation. And some of you guys have been around for so long that you're like, who cares when, like, for example, who cares when England was founded? I mean, we've been here forever. You've got like Stonehenge and nobody knows exactly when that was built or why it was built. They're like, oh yeah, it's a calendar. It's a calendar for the cave people that used to live in England. But actually, we all know those are stargates. I've seen the movie, and I can just imagine if you line up the rings just right in the middle of Stonehenge, that each one of those doors just opens up and we can travel around the universe. And maybe that's how people respond on the earth. You never know. Aliens, guys, aliens. You need that guy from History Channel to pop up. Aliens. I love that. I love that guy. I love History Channel documentaries on that kind of stuff. I don't believe in it myself. I'm not going to say that there's definitely, without a doubt, no aliens in the universe, but I love hearing their stories and their reasoning. It's nice to me. It's entertaining to me to hear people's logic behind why they believe something and hear someone passionate about a subject. So I don't know how we ended up talking about aliens on a Dota 2 show, but that's how I'm going to kick off my Tuesday, and I think that's just about correct. We are on Tuesday, episode 7 of FletchDota. This is, of course, July 1st, 2014, and with July comes the International. The International 2014, we are at a prize pool of $10.2 million. I actually have it right here in front of me, $10,205,621. The prize pool is ever increasing. Taunt victory prediction taunt is still the last stretch goal. There has not been more stretch goals, but it feels like now that we've hit the final stretch goal, the prize pool is increasing faster than leading up to 10 million, which is curious to me, but I guess it's just ESL hype, or maybe it's just international hype. Maybe it's the recent compendium update that I actually didn't get a chance to talk about it last night. Now, there was 2 reasons I didn't talk about it on the show. The first reason is I just glanced about it because somebody mentioned it, and I didn't actually look into it. The second reason is I want to fully read whatever I'm going to talk to you guys about because I want to know what I'm talking about. And not to say that I won't make any mistakes here or there, but I didn't want to just be reading it live on stream. I think that's a waste of your time. I should be able to bring to you key points from whatever it is I've already parsed before I bring it out onto the show. Now, getting into that, before we get to the update, because this update was pretty big and it's really exciting for me for a couple of reasons that I will get to in a moment. Before we get to that, somebody tell me what's going on. I go to Dota2.com to read the update today to get ready for the show, And this is what I see. It's the Fnatic post from Friday. Only it's in Russian now. Why is it in Russian? I don't even know what to say to this. The entire article is in Russian. Even like the little email part. Here's an email. Paul Utbet. Like these aren't even real words, but everything's in Russian. The entire post. The rest of the page is in English. Like all of the rest of Dota2.com is in English. Fnatic, the International is in Russian. And I can't explain that, guys. I can't explain that. So if somebody can explain to me what's going on, why only the Fnatic blog post is in Russian, I would greatly appreciate it. So getting into the update has a specific name, Overflowing Compendium Update, June 30th, 2014. This was released yesterday. And a couple of things happened in it that I didn't know were going to happen. And it's actually pretty exciting. But first of all, on their update page, there's an important thing that I wanted to point out. So not just that the update happened, but they've also released their pub stomp page. And I want to go ahead and make sure you guys know about this because this is pretty important going into TI4. If we look at the pub stomp page, pub stomps, for those of you who don't know pub stomps, this is basically where you go to watch TI4 with a bunch of other people. It might be in a bar, it might be in a LAN center, but you can host or you can sign up to attend the pub stomps. Valve sponsors these by sending out pub stomp gear for the pub stomps, or at least that's what I've heard. They send out pub stomp packages to the different official pub stomps, and you can sign up here. There is a pub stomp page, and it's in their overflowing update. If you look in the update, there's a little link to the pub stomps page. Be sure to check that out. If you're into that kind of thing, you want to go attend a pub stomp with other players, I definitely encourage it. It's a great way to meet people in your area who play Dota 2, and maybe that's a way to spark an interest in something more than just your casual matchmaking experience. If you can find people in the same area as you that you can relate with, that you are on the similar time zone as, that your schedules match each other, then perhaps you can start up a team. And from a team, maybe I'll see you in TI 22. And in 18 years. In 18 years, you could be a professional Dota player. Just think about that. So definitely don't miss your pub stomp. If you're into that sort of thing, if you like hanging out with other people, or you can be a recluse like me, hide in the safety of your own home and be like, I don't want to be around other people. I just want to watch TI4. But I wouldn't encourage that. Do your pub stomps, guys. Go sign up for pub stomps. Attend. Valve wants you to go. Other people want you to go. And along with the pub stomps, they released some actual game client updates. The biggest one, of course, I experienced this last night. For those of you who hung around after the show, you will see that I had weather effects enabled. I really like the weather effects. I had the moon one, I think. The moon one worked for me. Yeah, I don't remember what it was called though. It was lunar maybe, moonlight, but it was purple. Everything was purple, and I really liked the weather effect. I didn't try out the rain or the snow yet. I did, however, get a chance to try out the chat emoticons, which were also released. And in fact, I cast a tournament this morning, and that's all the players were doing in the lobby while we were getting ready for the game, was spamming puck emotes. Puck sticking out his tongue. I saw probably 150 pucks in a row from 10 separate professional players waiting for a game to start. And that was pretty much the highlight of my morning, because now I know that when I am waiting and when I'm in a pause, I can just drop a puck and I'll feel better about it. And I will relate to professional players and know that they do the same thing when they're waiting. Mini Pudge Courier also released separate styles for that. The Squawkin' styles came out if you're interested in those. If you have a higher level compendium and you want your Lieutenant Squawkin's Parrot Courier to be riding a boat for whatever reason, you don't want him to be a flying parrot. You want him to be a sailing parrot that rides around in a boat. That is possible. He does, of course, have a tiny little bottle. I think it has a town portal scroll inside of it. And beyond that, I'm not too sure what else he has. I guess he's supposed to be a Kunkka style courier. Not really sure. The biggest change, though, that happened, I actually didn't notice this at all through my playing experience, because this is specifically for watching live replays, or not replays, live games. Something very interesting Dota 2 has unraveled is what is the live rewind feature. Now, live rewind means you can basically TiVo Dota 2. We're talking DVR quality action. You see something really awesome, you pause, you click rewind, and you can go back and watch it again. Whoa, what just happened in that team fight? Rewind. Oh, Bane force-staffed and caught him with the ultimate, and then Lion fingered him. Now I see. That is now available in Dota 2. The live rewind feature was updated in the update yesterday, and I completely was caught unaware by this. I did not know this was even being planned as a feature in Dota 2, and that goes along with just another list of features that Valve has impressed me by releasing things I didn't even know that I needed or wanted. But here they are, and I am happy about this. I am really happy about the ability to replay during games as a spectator. Now, what I hope this doesn't do, I'm kind of school. Did I just say kind of school? I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared that casting studios are going to start trying to implement live rewind into their games. And this is not something that needs to be done during a live broadcast. That needs to be an optional choice for the viewer. It should not be forced upon them by the caster. Now, there might be a way to run 2 Dota clients where you do a live rewind of a team fight and maybe do a picture-in-picture. That might be acceptable by one of the bigger studios if they're able to run multi-picture streams and have a separate guy that handles live rewind. But if you make your mainstream live rewind, like many of the casting streams were doing with the zoom out feature, they were just suddenly zooming out all the time. And it's like, guys, we're here to watch Dota, not watch you learn the new features of Dota. That scares me about live rewind, because when these new features come out, people go happy. They go gadget crazy. And I don't want that to happen. I want to watch good Dota. I don't want it to get screwed over by an awesome feature that's there for the spectator, not for the caster. But again, if someone finds a way to implement it in the proper method, it could be really cool for a casting environment. But again, it can't be the main focus. You have to keep the main game running. So maybe like a little bit of a rewind and a quick replay of some key moment when you're in a slump while everybody's just farming. You know, there's a lot of farming in Dota at this point in the stage, especially in Chinese Dota. They're very reserved in their actions because they don't want to leave any openings to be attacked. And it pays off for them a lot of the time. But because of this, you end up with 70-minute farm fests, and it can be rather boring to watch. But when there is an engagement, you can replay some crucial points while the anti-mages just last hitting a couple more creeps. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. On top of that, I think this is very important for most people. It's important. It's important, guys. Cyborg Matt releasing some content analysis. Techies. Goblin techies officially confirmed in the game. The models and the animations are being added as we speak. It's of course not finalized. As you can see, there's no texture added yet on his little minecart, but the models are there, the animations are there, and we will be suicide bombing people soon enough. Hopefully around the same time as TI4 as a casual pub player. That would certainly be a great way to kick off TI4. Blow somebody up with Goblin techies, and then go watch a game of EG versus the world. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Now, of course, that could be a way to close up the international, or maybe perhaps during the international they release a patch. I don't know how much patching is going to happen during the international. I feel like Valve, at least their specific stance, seems to me to be patch the client, get it stable, iron out as many bugs as you can, and then freeze everything during TI4. And afterwards, maybe release a big update. But during TI4, I don't know that they're going to release an update, or even right before, maybe the couple weeks right now. Maybe this might even be one of the final big patches we see of the big features released. Everything else might just be bug fixes from here till TI4 for the sake of keeping a stable client and not making a mistake during the biggest event of the year. And not just for Dota 2, but this is one of the biggest events not in esports, and it's one of the bigger events in sports. So, I mean, we're headed towards $11 million. We've got a couple weeks to do it, and we've gone from 10 million in 2 days to 10.2 million. 11 million is not that far off. So we'll have to wait and see if we cross that 11 mil mark. One final thing on the note of TI4. Team Liquid has been doing these great team reviews, and they released one recently, actually today, middle of the day, about 2:30 today. Navi US Second Sons is the title of the article. And you might think, oh, a North American forum, Team Liquid releasing a review of North American players. Oh, yeah, it's just going to be fanboying. It's actually a very balanced article and a very honest and forward article. And just a little glimpse to give you kind of a taste of how this article reads. Right here under their gameplay section. However, Navi US's weaknesses emerge before and after their teamfighting peaks, in the laning stages and late game situations where they seem to struggle most and show where they're still green. While Navi US laning can be strong, especially when their roaming pays off, it is rare to see Navi US exit the laning phase with a lead, especially against the top tier teams such as those they faced at the Summit LAN finals and will face in the International. This is likely a result of their yet to be established team dynamics. While Fogged and 1437 remain firmly at the 4 and 5 positions, Brax, Korok, and Snaking vary their positions and farm priorities from game to game. And just right there, that's not even the full paragraph, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse into it. And I will link you the full article if you're interested in reading it. But it's a very in-depth look at the individual team. And Team Liquid's been doing this on most of the teams that are going to TI4. I don't know exactly how many they've done, but I know I've spotlighted a couple of these articles, and I may have missed some. But there's one on Navi US if you are a Navi US or North American Rejects fan, or at least enjoy hearing about the teams going into TI4. I think these Team Liquid articles are definitely worth a read. So, and it also goes over each of the individual players. So right here, we've got like number 1, Carry Snaking, number 2, Core Mid, Korok, number 3, Core Offlane, Brax, 4, Fogged, 5, 1437. Talks about their record, and then it's got some highlights to run through, just a few YouTube videos to give you a glimpse of their different playstyles. But these are excellent articles, and I really encourage you to read them if you are at all interested in the teams coming into TI4. Now, on that note, on teams going into TI4, I have a different perspective for you guys to kind of mull over as we go into this. I've talked a lot about the teams, I've talked a lot about the players, but we haven't really discussed the casters. And Dota2P, or Dota.2p.com, released an interview today where they interviewed Baskip, and did he expect to go to TI4, how he feels about it, and starting out as a caster and what struggles he's gone through and all the different experiences he has and how he established himself. And so if you've heard how the players get into professional gaming, you've heard all their different stories, or if you haven't, it's certainly out there. But a lot of the casters, you don't really think about hearing from them. And I think this is a really well done interview. The questions are spot on in this. You know, sometimes you get some questions where it's like, what's your favorite game? Dota 2. So why are you a professional Dota player? And it's like, come on, ask some real pointed questions that you can give a real answer to. And Dota 2P has definitely done that. So right here, how did you get into commentating Dota 2? And he talks about watching the International and thinking to himself, I can do that. That he loves talking about Dota and how he started out with a really small audience, a tiny channel with 50 viewers, ended up in contact with Shiver, ended up filling in for BTS, and how it's gone from there. He also talks about his future, whether he plans to continue in esports, how he's not real certain about the casting and he wants to continue mostly with his college degree in software engineering, that he feels more stable and secure with that. And it's just kind of an insight about a person who wasn't expecting to go to TI4 but is getting invited there this year. And it's kind of like a, TI1, he was just a spectator, and now here we are at TI4, and he's actually invited and showing up on the main stage. So that's kind of exciting, and I'll go ahead and throw this over in the chat. I don't think I've thrown it for you guys yet, but there's the full article. Definitely cool to see a perspective other than just the players. Now, of course, it is really nice to see how players react after the games, but what about some of the hosts? This is kind of along the same lines as the casters. Paul Redeye Shaloner, he was for lack of better terms, the old guy in the middle at ESL. This guy is not a Dota 2 personality. He is an esports personality. Many people, if you know him, I actually didn't know who to look it up when I first saw him. I said, who is this guy? And find out he's a big esports personality that goes all the way back through a lot of the FPS games and some of the earlier esports tournaments that really started out this whole venture. And he doesn't ask me anything. For those of you who don't know about asking me anything, it's basically you spend an hour or so, and actually it looks like he spent 4 hours answering questions that are asked. Of course, you know, you might ignore some questions, but people ask relevant questions and you sit there and answer them. And there's a couple of really good questions that I thought to take into TI4. Because when we're going into TI4, we're not just looking at Dota players anymore. We're looking at bringing in a wider audience into Dota. And Red Eye is a wider audience. He is not a Dota player. He is a host or a personality that happened to be involved in a Dota event this time around. So starting out, we have a question. How much did you prepare yourself and learn about Dota before going on stage? And he talks about he played about 80 hours, but spent even more time watching replays to try and learn the lingo that we used, the memes that were relevant to us, and reading up on player interviews, compiling stats into Excel sheets on events, matches, and head-to-heads. And he talks about what it takes for him as a host to go into an event that he really knows nothing about. He said all in all, it took him about 3 months to do that he started this preparing ahead. Another question, are you planning to do more Dota events? I think this is exciting, but he says, yes, I hope so. So we will hopefully see more of him coming up. That means he at least probably enjoyed his experience, which is always good. You don't want people to be like, hey man, you just did that Dota event. Are you coming back? No, that was awful. Look at Casey Atchison. She hosted TI3. And we go, are you coming back for TI4? Absolutely. That's what you want with every person that you bring into TI4 this year. You want them to return to Dota 2 because that's how we grow. And when we grow the whole, that means we as individuals grow with it. Because your part in Dota doesn't ever get smaller. You start to interact with more and more people the more you play. You start to build groups, peer networks, Steam communities. You start to get involved in other activities, whether it be casting or adminning or maybe writing articles. You start to play with other players consistently, maybe make a team, maybe not go professional, maybe just amateur. Maybe you just stay really casual with 4 other people and all you do is pub together. That's okay. But you start to build these relationships involving Dota. And that's better for Dota as a whole when these things happen because it increases the longevity of Dota as an event. I would say the longest running games are not games that you sit down and play through and enjoyed the storyline and that was it. It's the ones that you play and enjoy and have shared experiences with other people. Look at World of Warcraft. It's like, how many people play World of Warcraft today? We've got, I think 13 million is what they said. World of Warcraft's been going on since I was a lot younger than I am now. And these people built these huge guilds together. They constantly communicate with each other. They're hanging out. They're having World of Warcraft events. And it's not that they're making money off World of Warcraft. It's that there's something beyond just a game now. You have relationships with other people. And I'm not using relationships in the term of boyfriend-girlfriend. It's mostly just relationships as even what we have right now. You as the Twitch viewer, me as a Twitch broadcaster. And that's an interaction between 2 separate personalities. And we may mesh, we may not. We may clash against each other. But either way, we have founded a relationship. And those relationships affect your influence on other people. And people like to influence others. So growing more relationships, I think, only makes people feel better about themselves. Which is what you want, I think, at the end of the day. When you play a game, you want to feel good about what you've done. So, give yourself some time to enjoy the company of others. And speaking of Red Eye, I did want to cover a few ESL things that came out. First of all, I went ahead and go over the Dota stats from ESL. I did this last week, and it was just kind of a previous week stats. I didn't have a chance to cover it on Monday because we ran out of time. I wanted to go ahead and cover it today. So here's the total picks for ESL 1. as provided by Dota. Great website for those of you who don't know anything about Dota 2 statistics. This is one of the many sites that compiles it all together. There are, of course, a few others that I've been prone to use, but we're going to start out Mirana leading the way, 11 games, 7 wins, 4 losses. Great win rate. Always seems to be a positive win rate on Mirana. She does a great job, and she's pretty relevant to her team, whether she's in the core position or the support position. Now, of course, average gold per minute, XP per minute will be skewed because she does sometimes play support, and you're talking about lower gold per minutes. And then, of course, there's the core. So she's sitting solidly in the middle. Doombringer following it up. 9 games. Now, this doesn't include the ban statistics. That's important to note. These are the heroes that made it through the bans and are picked. I think that's a large part why Batrider's down here only 4 times. He only made it through the ban phase 4 times. But the interesting thing is that the 4 times Batrider made it through, the teams that played against Batrider knew how to address him. And I wonder if this marks the downfall of Batrider as first pick, first ban material, at least among these tier 1 teams. I think that's the most important thing about these statistics from ESL. The biggest thing to take from ESL is that this is a precursor to TI4. This is the same meta that we should see going into the group stages of TI4. Do you call it group stages, or do I just call it phase 1? Because that's what Valve calls it. Okay, phase 1 of TI4. Going into phase 1, this should be the meta. Most of these, actually all of the teams that are ESL 1 will be at TI4. And this marks what kind of playstyle you should expect to see when tier 1 teams are duking it out against each other. You're going to have Mirana games constantly during TI4 if this is anything to mark what we're going to see. And there's no reason not to pick her when you're still winning with her. Now, Doombringer, of course, is very situational, I think. I think that's why you have mixed results with him. You can't just pick Doom and get an instant win. You have to have a playstyle fit to go around him, and teams are starting to figure out how to deal with Doom. Doom, of course, going into this with, he has 33% win rate, which makes me think, hey, people aren't going to be quite as scared as Doom as they previously were. Doom's kind of along the same lines of Batrider. People are really excited about Doombringer, want to pick him all the time, ban him all the time because they don't want to play against him. But honestly, teams are figuring out how to play against him. That's what happens when you're one of the most popular heroes. And hopefully that doesn't happen in Mirana, because I really enjoy Mirana games, especially the support Miranas. Those are absolutely a joy to see. You see hyper-aggressive Dota, and that's much preferred, I think, to just the farm up our cores and push Dota. But I really like early aggression leading into an aggressive mid game, which is what IG showed us, I think, at ESL. Now, along with those stats, the other noticeable thing, Brewmaster, very low win rate. People are starting to deal with the Brewmaster. The Bane is starting to get picked back up. I talked about this just, I think it was last week, that I've been surprised that Shadow Demon has been being picked over Bane when they fill the same role in the early game, and Bane's always done it better. That's why she was picked over Shadow Demon. Now, Shadow Demon, previously, the only thing, what was the only thing that changed? I think it was just his ultimate. Didn't it get charges from Aghanim Scepter? How often, is it Aghanim Scepter, or does he always have charges? I have to go back and look. I think the only thing that changed was his ultimate. And I think people have started trying him out, seeing if he's overpowered or anything. And they're like, yeah, he's really strong. But Bane's still just as strong. She didn't get weaker. Enfeeble is still one of the most annoying early game spells you can cast on anybody. But looking at the Bane picks in ESL, it's like people have gotten over the flavor of the week Shadow Demon. And we might see a lot more Bane coming out to combo with Mirana. Now, Bane Nightmare, if you look at a Mirana setting up for an arrow, Shadow Demon has to be exactly precise with his disruption. There is no setup time for the Mirana. She needs to chuck her arrow if she's at max range to go ahead and get that 2.5 second timing down, because right when they come out, they can juke if she doesn't get the arrow just right, or if she gets it too soon, it's going to miss. Bane, if they're Nightmare, you can hit the arrow at any point during the Nightmare and it's going to proc the stun. That's not something you can do with a Shadow Demon. That's why she's so strong. Of course, Enfeeble, I mentioned that. You can throw Bane into a lane. If you're in a tri-lane, you can throw Bane to just shut down the enemy carry for the early game in the last hit wars. Start out with level 1 Enfeeble, set up for the kills at level 2 with the Nightmare. And speaking of Bane, there's a really good video out. It was actually done by Widdz, W-I-D-D-Z. And if you look at it, it's actually a longer replay video because it's not exactly one of those, what do you want to call it? One of those big play videos so much as it's a highlight of an entire game. It's 10 minutes long, and it's specifically about Misery's Bane gameplay versus IG. He played an absolutely phenomenal Bane, even though IG in the end triumphed over Mouse Sports. I think 2-1 was the final score. Misery's Bane was absolutely amazing, and I'm always impressed by Misery's play. I honestly hope that Misery as a player and his experience with Mouse Sports, whether it be positive or negative, does not impact his growth. How do I say this in a nice way? I think Misery is held back by the current lineup he is in. I think he belongs in a team of players that are all at the same skill level as him. And I think Mouse Sports is still lacking in overall player talent. I'm not going to point specific fingers, but as a total team, yes, they're good. Yes, their players are good. But I think he belongs in a team like Arteezy's found for himself with EG, where you have 4 other talented players around you that are really excelling and doing their job. And Misery isn't there yet. And I hope that doesn't set him back from his growth in competitive Dota. Now, that's not to say the players with him. This is when I say positive or negative. The players with him might grow into better players. Growth is always an option. So Misery might stay with the same team, grow with these guys, and they could blossom into top tier players in each of their fields. So if he stays with Mouse Sports and they're able to do that, that is great. I love Misery as a player. And if you haven't had a chance to hear his in-game play calling, this guy seems to know where everybody on the map is at any point in time. It is I can't even wrap my mind around how he does it, but it's like he's playing all 10 heroes at once and knows exactly what they're thinking and what they're going to do. I can barely keep track of my own hero, guys. I am really bad at multitasking. But Misery seems to do it for everybody, and there is a really awesome video put together by Wids that I just want to go ahead and throw out here to you guys. Y'all think Owie's also held back? You know, that's actually an interesting point. Cloud9, it's kind of hit or miss on the players. Sometimes you feel like the players are not inside their comfort zone. I really liked when Arteezy was playing for Cloud9. I think Arteezy and Eternal Envy complement each other so well because you either shut down one or the other. Right now, where Eternal Envy is in Cloud9, I feel like you can just focus him and shut down a large portion of Cloud9, and that's why they're struggling. At the same time, when Arteezy played mid for Cloud9, it opened up Sing Sing to play support, and his number 4 support is probably one of the best number 4 supports I've seen in Dota 2. As far as his mid goes, I've never been fully impressed by his mid play. Yes, he's a good mid player, but is he ever considered the best mid player? And that's what you really need on a team. You need one of the best to really be successful at this level, I think. And that might be holding back. It's not that I feel like Sing Sing could be in a better role, and I feel like they're missing a little bit of talent gap to go around them. And you talk about Owie. And I feel like Owie and Sing Sing, if you were able to put them back on 4 and 5 support, you would have an extremely strong lineup for Cloud9. And that's actually what was it? It was something in China, I think, that they won. It was a lot of money. And I think that was like when Cloud9 was Speed Gaming. Still, yeah, they were still Speed Gaming at the time. And that was a ways back, and really it wasn't all that long ago in retrospect and like in the big scheme of things, but it feels like so long ago because we had so many tournaments between now and then, which is exciting for Dota 2. You want lots of tournaments, you want lots of events, and that's what we're getting. Now, I did cover the ESL 1 stats, but something else I like to do when I cover the stats, I like to give you guys a little bit of pub stats to look at. This is, of course, the past week's pub stats for most played heroes. Pudge again topping the charts, and actually Sniper still hanging right behind him. It's not that players win with these heroes, it's that, oops, I didn't mean to swap it by matches played. It's that everyone loves to play Pudge. It's the hook you land, guys. The hook you land and you feel like the greatest thing in the world. And then, of course, people are douchebags. There's no other reason to pick a Sniper in a game. Now, Mirana and Phantom Assassin and Invoker, you see these in professional games quite a bit. So of course the players in the player pool are going to be picking these heroes that they pick up. And then Little Bloodsuka. How can you leave out Little Bloodsuka, the ultimate pub stomper? So that's going to wrap up your top, I guess 6 is what I decided to go through. I couldn't just do top 5 and leave out the Little Bloodsuka. But we gotta get Bloodsuka. People love him in pub games. Now this is of course pub games across all skill levels, so this might be different at different brackets. But I just like to cover that for you guys. I think it's nice to see what we're playing this week, and it really doesn't change all that often, like the meta with competitive Dota seems to do occasionally. Now as of 6.81, I don't think there's been too much change other than Mirana shifting up, and Rubik kind of tapered off. But I've started to see a bit more Rubik in competitive gaming, and I think it's because we started to get more Tidehunter. Rubik is like, I mean, it's just like the ultimate counter to picking up Tidehunter's ulti, especially with the big nerf that originally got rid of Tidehunter before he was able to anchor smash agents. The slow to his Ravage, like even Crystal Maiden can outrun a Ravage now. She's just running away, and you're like, she doesn't even have her boots yet. But it is what it is. It is what it is. People love Rubik, people love Tidehunter, and they're going to be playing him. Now, one last thing, there was a really nice write-up that had all the stats for the picks and bans throughout June. It was kind of a June recap for every single tournament. This is not just ESL 1. Topping the charts, Doombringer, Batrider, Lycan. The big thing to note here is these heroes tapered off for ESL 1. These heroes are not winning anymore. 33% win rate for both Batrider and Doombringer. Lycan's hardly ever picked anymore because these heroes were picked so much people learned to deal with them. They learned how to address each of these unique instances of strategy in Dota 2. And that's what happens. The meta shifts because people learn to play against something or remember how to play against something. A lot of times you have a rotation, I think, in Dota 2 in the meta. It feels like you pick a strategy that counters the current strategy that's popular. So, you know, there was the 4 Protect 1 strategy, and people started heavily roaming and ganking and pushing to end the game before you got to late game. And then it's like, oh, you want to do Rat Dota, then we'll turtle it up. And then there's the 3 core strategy that's rotated in. There's the 100% aggressive straight into mid-game victory Dota, where you just try and rack up a bunch of kills to overwhelm your opponent, pick up tower kills off of that to get an overwhelming advantage over yourself, which IG seems to run a lot right now. And it feels like these strategies kind of shift around each other because they counter what's popular at the time. So as Lycan grew in popularity, you start to see heroes come in that deal with Lycan. You start to see these aggressive tri lanes. You start to see Mirana coming out into full effect. You start to see Doombringers picked up as Tinker is getting really popular right now. You start to see Batriders to deal with all the invokers. And until we get back into the player pool, as Tidehunters picked up, I think Rubik's going to come back in. And what I really hope, and I don't know if this will happen or not, you guys will have to tell me if you think it'll happen. I hope this happens. The current metagame allows for a really bursty, aggressive mid player. And this hasn't been the case for quite a while now. Where I think Queen of Pain, beyond just Mushi playing her, will make her resurgence this TI4. And if she does, I want to see Dindy Quap, because I haven't seen that in forever. And his Quap, in my opinion, was one of his best heroes. She just hasn't fit the Navi strategies as of late. And it makes me so sad because I miss his Quap. And I want Navi to find a strategy that uses his strongest hero like that. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, we do have something I would like to point out. I talked about DatDota a little bit previously, and DatDota started releasing something on a blog that I'd like to point out for you guys. So DatDota, the stats site, they started doing a little overview from a statistics point of view of the different teams, and specifically they've got IG. They also did one on Aero Gaming. You can see these coming out. So I'm hoping they do these on every single TI4 team, and this is really exciting. So first it goes over the players. It just gives some raw statistics of game played, what role they play, TIs that they've been to. So kind of their overall experience. A brief little write-up, and I think the cool thing to look at is if you start to look at their heroes, their win rates, how they're doing. Of course, here's games played again overall for the different teams, you've got Navi number 1 in the TI2 to TI3 games played against IG. I think this is just against IG. Is this right? I'm not entirely sure, but also he goes over Ace and how Ace affects Chinese Dota. Inside the article, it actually links to an interview with the Ace president, and it's really telling how Ace operates. I was trying to explain to you guys last week how Ace controls the Chinese Dota teams and the Chinese Dota scene in general, that if you want to have a Chinese tournament, you've got to talk to Ace. And he goes into that and how it affects the games played by these teams, and how Ace is relaxing his restrictions now, and these Chinese teams are starting to branch out and play against more opponents, and you're starting to see more of them. And this might have to do with their recent strength, and it might be because these Western teams have managed to go to China and take these big victories. Maybe that has shaken up Chinese Dota, that, hey, we need to broaden ourselves and open up and play against teams around the world. And these other tournaments are certainly great opportunities to do so. But really good blog posts coming from them, and I think that as we go throughout the next couple weeks, we will be seeing these write-ups on every single team. And it's just a brief little glimpse, another glimpse, I think, along with, what was it, Team Liquid's write-ups, to give you a little bit of a perspective on what's going on with these Dota 2 teams. If you just love raking in all the info you can find on these teams, or at least your favorite team. Maybe they'll do one of your favorite team. I don't know who everybody's favorite team is, but maybe yours will be covered here pretty soon. Along with that, Dota2p.com released a competitive scene overview for the month of June. They talk about both the East and West Dota, the main events. So we've covered as many of the tournaments as we could over the show as they've popped up, and of course the standings as teams go in. But they talk pretty specifically about the different events in Eastern and Western Dota. They split them up so that you can keep them separate. For example, D2L, they talk about EG, and Navi's performance. Navi, even though they had the 0-3 loss in the finals, and they talk about how Navi still beat Rock's Kiss, Empire Fnatic. Go over D2CL, Dream League, Eastern Dota. They talk about a lot of the big tournaments. Let's see what we got. CDEC, we've got GEST. Man, I've got abbreviations for everything. WVW, V Gaming, that just wrapped up just the other day. And they cover all the grand final results for the entire month of June. So just a little monthly recap done by Dota2p.com. And there you guys go. Now, final thing of the day, this Tuesday will be a little bit shorter than normal. I actually did not intend to play this video, so you got a little bit of music there. But something I wanted to mention, I like to do a community spotlight. And the community spotlight for tonight is kind of, I don't know if I say this is for Admiral Bulldog, or if I say this is for Combo Waka Maka. Combo Waka released a hilarious Dota 2 video that I definitely recommend you all watch. And this is a little bit different than the highlight reel for Misery's Bane. This is just a tribute to Alliance. A tribute to Admiral Bulldog, really. And I'm not going to lie, I absolutely laughed during this. And it's only 1:48. It's not the 10-minute video of that complete highlight reel that we saw for Misery. So a nice, quick, easy watch that I hope you can all enjoy. I will throw it over there to you guys in the stream. I recommend you watch it. I don't fully know if I'm allowed to play YouTube videos on my stream or not. I feel like that's probably not acceptable, so I'm not going to do it. I'll just link them to you guys. And it's really only going to be YouTube videos that I happen to watch and think are really good. I mean, I go through probably about 6 to 10 YouTube videos prepping for the show each day. And there's a lot of them I just throw out, I'll be honest. I'm like, why is this what people want to watch? But there's a few that catch my eye that I'm like, oh, I really like this. And that's the ones that I decide on to actually throw to you guys. So I try and give you guys the top ones that I find. And this, of course, is entirely also dependent on you guys. I think this Art of Rat Dota was actually suggested to me before my stream. It was recommended to me by one of you. As a viewer, you've given me feedback, and I've tried to incorporate this into my mini streams. I do this while casting as well. People have tips for me, and I try and incorporate it to grow. And I love to hear from you guys. So if you've got an idea, a suggestion for the show, be sure to throw it at me. Either send me a Twitch message Although Twitch messages are kind of acting up, so that might not be the best way anymore. I still try and check them, but it doesn't tell me when I have a new message anymore. It basically has told me I have 16 messages for the past month, and I don't have 16 messages. I don't have any unread messages, actually. Even the spam messages, I've read all of those. It still says 16. So I don't get notified when I get a new message, but I still do check it. And also it throws some of my viewer messages into a folder called Other. I think it's supposed to be Twitch's new spam folder, but I don't understand why these people would be listed as spam. So it makes no sense to me, but thank you, Twitch, for completely ruining my inbox, along with the trouble I've had with Twitch chat. Now, the best way I think to get in touch with me is through Twitter. Twitter.com/FletchDota. You can follow me on there to see when I'm live, of course, with this stream, as well as all of my tournament casting. I post the site that I'm casting on. I post when I'm live on Twitch. It automatically does that for me, actually. Post my stream, says what I'm doing in the title, and you guys can come and watch if you follow me on Twitter. But you can also send me a message. If you message at FletchDota when you send out a tweet, you can send me a suggestion on there and it'll pop up in my notifications. And I check those every single day, especially before I start the show. I try and check them before every single stream just to make sure I'm called up on them. I don't get 100 notifications, so it's pretty easy to browse through. On top of that, you can always email me, masterfletch@gmail.com. I do check my email regularly, so if you send me an email and you write it up what you think should be added to the show, I'm definitely open to suggestions. So if you see something cool, contact me through one of those ways. I'd also appreciate it if you follow me on Twitter or if you follow me on Twitch. I like the follows. I like, especially though, when you guys come back for a second time, because a repeat viewer base is what I'm striving for. If I can get a large enough repeat viewer base, maybe this can become something more than just a part-time hobby for me. Maybe it can become something sustainable. And that's ultimately what we need. I don't need to get rich off this show, but if I can sustain the show through the earnings that the show has, then that means I can grow it to a later on. And then maybe at that point, it can become something that becomes more of a full-time job for me. So we'll have to wait and see how the show grows, whether it continues on indefinitely, or if we're like, hey, this isn't getting anywhere and we've got to go. But as that goes, that will be wrapping up, what is this, episode 7 of FletchDota. This is the July 1st episode 2014. For those of you who are new to the show, be sure to hang around after the show. I will be playing Dota. We'll get through with the news, and I get to relax with you guys and really respond to the chat. I try and read the chat while I'm talking to you guys about the news and kind of respond to it a little bit, but mostly it's there while I'm doing the official part of FletchDota for you guys to interact with each other. Now, after the show, it's entirely different. I will be playing Dota as kind of a cool down from the show, especially if there's tough news like there was yesterday with Fnatic, but cool down from the show and also 100% interaction with you guys. Y'all can just sit there and throw ideas straight to me in the Twitch chat. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, you don't get that interaction. You want to come by live. We are live every single day, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And of course, as busy as my days get, I still try and pop out 3 to 4 hours of my day to be sure to be able to prep for the show, get all the news that I need to talk to you about, and then of course to cast the show and the games afterwards. So I hope to see you guys after the show if you're hanging around, and maybe we can chat some. And if not, I hope to see you next time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, for another episode of FletchDota tomorrow evening. As for that, that ends episode 7, and I hope to see you next time.